you brought something up. I'm just going to share it with you. In this letter, in these letters I got from the Treasury, back and forth, my daddy told me it was awful good business to buy low and sell high. So knowing that, and I understood that they sold it once, and I've been down there and watched them print the money down there. And after they printed, I had a letter that said they sold them to the banks for a penny apiece. So I said, well, gee, I'll just send them $1 and ask them to send me $100 bills just like they do to the banking system. We're not supposed to have any monopolies, so how can they be the only ones that can do that? There's laws against monopolies in the United States. So they wrote back and they told me, well, the Bureau of Printing and Engraving does produce the nation's paper currency and sells it to the Federal Reserve Bank for $20.60 per 1,000 notes, which is 2.6 cents. So I didn't send enough money in the first place. Those notes, however, are not money until they are monetized and issued by a Federal Reserve Bank. Now, if that note is printed off at the Treasury and goes on a pallet, and somewhere between when it was shipping to the next Federal Reserve Bank, we'll say it's shipped from Washington, D.C. to Minneapolis, but a bunch of us go rob that truck in the meantime, you mean that money wouldn't be spendable? I think it would. How would anybody know the difference? But they say, no, that money isn't even, now those bills aren't even money until they're monetized by the Fed. So I wrote a letter to the Treasurer and asked them exactly, how do you do this? Do you sprinkle holy water on them? Do you blow some kind of something on them? Or what do you do? They didn't answer that letter. But they got to do something. So then they went on. And then to obtain notes, the Federal Reserve Bank must pledge collateral equal to the face value of the note. In other words, they have to actually put up collateral themselves to get notes from the Treasury. And that collateral consists in a loan or in combination gold certificates, special drawing rights certificates, and now that's a weighted average of the G8 countries, their currencies, or government securities, and that's what most of it is. And I have some actual bills, and I forgot to bring them with them, that actually show you, in fact, I actually have some over there that I can show you that it's a copy, that actually shows you that on the bills they used to say secured by bonds or United States securities. So see, they have to put up the bond as the security to get the note that the Treasury prints for them. Everybody gets in debt. All money is put on the books today as a liability to somebody and an asset to somebody else. Can't go on as just an asset. It has to go on as a liability and an asset. You can't imagine how many times I've been told that. And then it says, money without backing is worthless. In effect, you are suggesting that currency be printed out in necessary backing. Well, I have another letter over here from the Treasury. This is kind of interesting. The Fed has several ways of controlling the amount of reserves in the system. One has already mentioned, namely the fact that the Federal Reserve Bank can lend reserves to the private banks. They don't even have to have the money. They can just go borrow some more from the Fed. To do this, the Federal Reserve Bank simply makes a new entry on its books showing the borrowing bank has more dollars in its account with the Fed. All it does is put an entry on there, and there's more money. They got more reserves, then they can loan out 12 times that much. And then it says another place here, and I think I highlighted it. Federal Reserve notes are not redeemable in gold or silver or any other commodity. They are not redeemable. They have not been redeemable since 1933. In this sense, that they are not redeemable, Federal Reserve notes have not been backed by anything since 1933. And over here they said money without backing is worthless. And these lakes both come from the Library of Trade, the Department of Treasury. And of course, see, I think our money has 100% backing because I don't have it here, but I have a document from the Library of Congress, no, from the actual testimony in the Congress, in the hearings, where our money is 100% backed by the collateral on your property, by mortgages on homes and everything else in the United States. So this money actually ends up somewhere as a mortgage on your place where you can't have it, or somebody's place.
But you had a chart once that showed the total liquidation of the United States
Yeah.
and all the stuff, but our debt is greater than the
Yeah.
total liquidation, so they're a little deficient in the collateral.
Yeah, actually, I took that down. The chart he's talking about, I don't have it right with me today. It showed that the actual worth of the United States, according to David Walker, former comptroller of the currency, is about $38 trillion. The total debt at that time was 54, and the total federal liabilities, you know, Medicare and all this stuff, was 54. And I just got from the Federal Reserve Bank in New York their website said the total money supply was $7.7 trillion. So I went down to Mitzen, who is the president of the Senate down in Minnesota, and he's a banker. And I said, Senator Mitzen, I'd like to talk to you a minute. I'd like to get a loan from you. And he got all nervous. And we happened to be, I met him in an elevator because I didn't want the loan. The woman was in there, and she got all nervous. So when he got out in the hall and walked toward his room, I said, I really didn't want to borrow some money. I just wanted to show you my financial statement and see what you thought. Oh, okay, he'd do that. And I said, my total worth is $38,000. I owe $54,000, and I have another $54,000 in liabilities coming up that I want to borrow the money for, and my total cash on hand is $7.7 thousand. Can I borrow the money? He said, man, you're already broke. And so then I handed him the chart, and I said, well, if you change those thousands to trillions, that's the financial statement of the United States. And he was still there studying it when I left. Well, if I would be broke with that financial statement, why aren't they? But then I've discovered in my life, as long as you can borrow more money, you're never broke. Isn't that kind of true? You're never broke as long as you borrow some more. Petters and Hecker proved that beyond a shadow of a doubt. Because the minute they couldn't borrow more, they went down the tubes, didn't they? As long as they could borrow more, they didn't see no limit to what they could do. So anyway, just for kicks, I wrote back another letter to him. And I said, please find and close $412 plus $2 million in collateral, just exactly like the collateral you said. Please send me $20,100 bills. I understand this is required from the Federal Reserve Bank to print for their use. They wrote back and said the Bureau of Printing and Engraving is not authorized to print or issue United States paper currency for direct delivery to the public. Currency notes are placed into circulation by your local financial organization and can only, and they underline only, can be obtained from that source. And the only way you and I can get Federal Reserve notes in our pocket is cash a check from somebody, ourselves or somebody else, off a checking account and buy the bills. Checking account money disappears and the bills come into our circulation. The money supply does not change. You had a question. Did I answer it?
Yeah, I was kind of going along. It kind of seems like we're maybe in a period of time where kind of credit is still kind of seized up.
Well, they can seize it up every time. Only a recession can only come when the banks shut down the money supply. Can't happen the other way. Because everything else keeps trying to go on, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I guess where I was going with that is, it kind of seems like right now we're kind of teetering on, I read some economists think we're going to, end up with deflation, but at the same time, it kind of seems like they're trying to ratchet up the money supply so that we end up with inflation almost. Some expect that hyperinflation.
Yeah, but see, I don't think that's true. I think, now what you're saying is true in the fact that they're actually ratcheting up some more money. But where's that money going? Basically just into the banking system, isn't it?
And the bankers, I know what they're probably doing is just buying T-bills with it.
Well, who knows? Maybe they're making foreign loans. Maybe they're paying off foreign loans. I don't have a clue personally what they're doing with the money, and apparently nobody else will because they won't talk. They told Congress they flat would not tell them what they did with the money. But we know a lot of those companies got big bonuses. Some of those guys got. I read in one paper, I was in Kansas City, I think, and somebody showed me the paper, and they named two banks that actually paid more bonuses than they did, and they had the total income that year. Well, now that money doesn't get down into the general population, I don't think. Not for a long time, anyway.
There are some South American countries that some of the international banks have made big loans to, and they can't pay them. So they're lending them money to
pay the interest.
So they don't really, they just make a bookkeeping entry.
Of course.
That we're lending you money, you pay the interest, otherwise they'll default, and they have to write it off their books as you're showing. So they're just lending them money to pay the interest.
That's what I mean. So you won't know how much, but even then, when's it get so far out of whack that it's obvious that everybody don't work?